You never know what your obedience could do for somebody else and how God is using you in other people's lives. We can't see everything He's doing. I have a friend now that obviously I didn't know back then, but they impacted me before we became friends in a way that they could never even understand. I go to a church, and the church that I go to has a really great worship team. And when I first started going and I was confined to the wheelchair, I sort of felt like I loved God, and I was very close with God already, but I didn't have a basis for worship yet. And I was very annoyed, I guess, at the worship because I felt like I was wheeled in my wheelchair to a concert that I didn't want to be at, and I was kind of forced to sit at, and I couldn't leave. And I'm down here in a wheelchair, and they're like way up here on the stage, like singing down at me, like yelling down at me, and it was very annoying to me. And then one day, it was my goal. I had a goal to get out of the wheelchair because I was too weak to even sit up in the wheelchair most of the time, and was kind of slumped over like this, partially slumped over. And then I started getting enough strength to sit up, and when I mastered that, I wanted to start standing, and I wanted to be able to raise my hands during worship and do all the things everybody else did. So I made that my goal to be able to do those things, and whenever I did, the very first time that I stood up during worship and I waved my hands above me and I partook in the worship instead of being at a concert, I realized we were putting on a concert for God. And I put the effort in and I stood up. And after service, one of the guys that was in the worship crew, he came to me and he said, "Hey, I saw that you stood up today in worship, and I just wanted to let you know that really inspired me. It was really inspirational, and I was so impressed to see that. And I really felt your heart in the worship." And he encouraged me. And then after he encouraged me, I went on in continuance of that, and I kept seeking out more ways to be more involved and to be more strengthened and to utilize the strength that God was giving me in ways that would grow me. So I started getting more involved every time. Until then, I was walking around the church and doing everything I wanted to do around the church, and I was able to do more and then actually even drive to church by myself. And it's proliferated all throughout my life and helped me to do all sorts of new things again. And now I don't use a wheelchair at all, and I actually work with the worship team in the sound booth, where I stand for 2 services. So I stand from like 7 a.m. to noon. I stand the entire time and I work in the booth. And I'm not in a wheelchair, and a lot of that is because of encouragement. I mean, obviously it's because of God, but the encouragement of brothers and sisters too. And I finally thanked him. It's been a few years, and I thanked him last night, and he told me that it wasn't him. He said he was just a vessel for God, and that he just let God speak through him. And that kind of thing, that heart that he has for that, that's exactly why God uses him, because he would never have taken credit for that. God uses the humble of heart. He uses people that will give the glory back to him, because all things that we do through Christ and for Christ should bring about a glory for him. So you never know the small things, just a few words that God puts on your heart, how those things can impact somebody's life. I'm walking because God spoke to me through somebody. I'm walking because he gave me the grace and recovered me. And I'm walking because of that encouragement that I got from a friend. And that kind of thing, you can't buy that. That kind of thing is priceless, and it's beautiful, and it's pleasing to the sight of God.